In 1998, St. John Paul II wrote this apostolic letter called Dies Domini, that is Latin for Day of the Lord, and he wanted to address the potential problem of the weekend. The weekend, why is that? Because the weekend, it's obviously a lot of good about family, restful activities, but the weekend is primarily about ourselves. But in Christian cultures, Sunday was always called the Lord's Day. And the Lord's Day was primarily about God and worship. So St. John Paul was worried that Christians were going to lose the Lord's Day, and he said that we're going to be locked in a horizon that cannot see the heavens. We can't see the big picture. So think about the way a lot of us use the weekend. A lot of us use it to catch up. We have this go, go, go mentality. We have to do more. Or you have this mentality of like, I live for the weekend. You've heard that expression, to live for the weekend? So it's basically you get through Monday to Friday, you work really hard, and finally I get to relax and have fun on Saturday and Sunday. But then I'm not looking forward to Monday again. It's just this grind, and you go over, the cycle repeats, and there's no real deep satisfaction. So there's no true goal there. Obviously, that's not good for the human person. But the Lord's Day, it's supposed to be about us all resting in God and just finding really deep satisfaction in Him. So Jesus today in the gospel says these famous lines, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The popular interpretation of these words was that Jesus makes life more comfortable. Why? Because instead of following the strictness of the Old Testament, now Jesus makes everything easy. Clearly that's not correct, because following Jesus often makes things harder. Because like his teaching is usually way harder than the Old Testament. Like he tells us not to just get rid of lustful actions, but to get rid of lust in the heart. So that's a wrong interpretation. The correct interpretation, Pope Benedict says that these words have to do more with not what Jesus gives us, but with who he is. So if we look at 4 key words here, 3 of them are repeated twice: weary, burden, rest, and yoke. These words all have to do with the Jewish Sabbath, when you got rest from very difficult work. And so the Jewish people found rest from work on the Sabbath. But now Jesus is saying, I'm going to give you rest. Why is that? Later on, Jesus will say, he is the Lord of the Sabbath. He's going to give us rest. What is he ultimately saying? He's saying, I'm your rest. I'm your Sabbath. The Jewish people, they found rest by imitating God, who rested on the 7th day of creation. Now Christians do that, and we go even further. We find rest by living in Jesus. So a Protestant pastor, he said this: by choosing the Sabbath, by focusing on the Sabbath, not just the weekend, I'm going to be a son that day. I'm not going to be a ministry leader. I'm not going to be whatever title you have. On the Sabbath day, I am the Son. He is the Father, he is the potter, I am the clay. I'm going to get my identity back. So if you know the difference between having fun and being loved, do you know that difference? If you know that difference, and you know the difference between the weekend and the Lord's Day. Jesus talks about the weary and those carrying heavy burdens. Now, those were the Jewish people who back then, they had to carry or fulfill the unnecessary laws of the Pharisees. Who are the weary today? Who's carrying unnecessary burdens today? And I would say it's those of us who lose our identity. We actually forget the big picture. So every Sunday, we're supposed to remember, fundamentally, life is good. Why? Because God the Father loves us. He's created us. And Jesus has offered us redemption. This is good. Life is so beautiful. And so there's nothing really to be worried about when Monday comes. Why? Because it's part of the Father's plan for us. It's so good. The picture makes sense. And everything makes sense in relation to the goal. I know a couple they went away, this young couple, they went away for a weekend retreat, and when they came back, one of their resolutions was make Sunday different. That's a resolution. Make Sunday different. So they said they don't accept play dates for their children on Sunday. The children never go to birthday parties. They try to see their parents. They have an extended brunch after lunch and no devices on the Lord's Day. They said that's the hardest, but they work at it. And so they're trying to teach the children the rhythm of rest, and their 12-year-old who's in competitive rock climbing, she never trains with the team on Sunday. And they've made a commitment to their parish. They said that their parish is their first spiritual community, so if there's an event on Sunday, they always make it a point of going. And because of this, they said, the children love people more. The children are more focused on people now than activities. And because Sunday is different, every other day is different. So, you know how a lot of us parents were worried about our children missing out? Like, if we don't get them to this activity on Sunday, they're going to miss out. And this couple that says, well, if we don't have them rest on Sunday, they're going to miss out. They're going to miss out on this opportunity to remember who they are. And so they're so rested on Sunday, the weekdays, they can face it with energy. Even in seasons of busyness, they've always got lots of energy. And so this is a question just for all of us to think about today. How can we make Sunday different? So Sunday should be different than Saturday, right? It should be. Probably it won't be until we make it more intentional. How can you make Sunday, the Lord's Day, different? We said last week, our goal here at St. Anthony's, we always call July and August the Sabbath summer. So our goal for this summer is to be just filled up with God, with joy, His love, so much that when September comes, we're overflowing and we'll want other people to have life to the full. We'll want them to really experience God's goodness. The weekend does not give rest to the soul, but the Lord's Day does.